All right. Hello, everyone, and good evening. I am Ravnos, Ian from Gehenna Gaming, and welcome to the latest Gehenna Gaming interview. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Elijah from NearDark Studios. Elijah is the storyteller for NearDark Studios' Chicago by Night Chronicle, which we all know and love a very great deal. Thank you for joining us. If you
Thank you.
are just tuning in, Chicago by Night had its season 1 finale last night, which was very exciting. So we will be talking about that a little bit, but no, we won't give any spoilers if you haven't watched it yet. Quick shout out, you can find Elijah on Twitter at Pinoybo, Pinoybo0. Well,
I think it's O. I think it's an O. I'm not sure.
So.
Okay. So Pinoyboi. And then, of course, you can find NearDark Studios on Twitch at twitch.tv/NearDarkStudios. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to get into all the questions and all that fun stuff. So
awesome.
I have
to point out.
Ian...
I have to point out that we also managed to wear the same band shirt. You have your Zeal and Ardor t-shirt, and I have my Zeal and Ardor hoodie on. So that was a happy
Mine looks like one, but it's something different. By the way, my co-host Ian did not introduce me because shame. Ring the bell, shame.
Everyone knows who you are. Come on. We had people who didn't know who Gehenna Gaming was at PAX Unplugged who came up going, "Is Rick here?"
It was really weird. Yeah. Not unwelcome, but a little strange. And I had a great time with them. But I'm Def Malkavian, and pleasure to be here as always, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Just to give everyone a heads up, we have a super secret surprise stream after our interview with Elijah. We're going to take like a 5-minute break, and then Def Malkavian and I are going to pop back on and talk about PAX Unplugged a little bit more, and also maybe give you some teasers of what 2020 holds for Gehenna Gaming. So stick around after the interview. It'll be fun. So I'm going to kick this off with a little bit of a standard question we've asked most of our interview guests.
Okay.
How did you get your start in tabletop gaming?
So my first actual experience with tabletop, or just role-playing in general, was with a friend of Jaded's, and they introduced me to the World of Darkness. So my first actual tabletop game, at least I would consider it, would be Vampire the Masquerade Old Wad. And that's how I kind of got started with that. And then Quentin introduced me to Pathfinder and D&D, and I actually had more of a rolling, your D10s and D20s and all that fun stuff. So
nice.
Awesome.
And did you know them for a long time before you started gaming with them, or was it like a recent acquaintance because of gaming?
So Jaden and Cookie, we went to the same high school, so we were friends throughout high school. And the friend of Jaded, so that was kind of a new introduction there. Quentin, we actually worked at the same grocery store. So and it's kind of funny when he invited me to his group, because we weren't really friends at that point. I was still working there, and he left the company, and I was installing a shelf, and I hear someone walk by me, and he's like, "Hey," and I turn around, it's Quentin. I'm like, "Oh, hey, dude, what's up?" And he was like, "Hey, me and some friends, we hang out in the basement and play Dungeons and Dragons. Do you think you would like to do that?" I was like, "Sure."
Always right out, hanging out in the basement.
Just right out with it.
Yeah. So I really, if there's anybody that really exposed me to that culture and to tabletop gaming, I would say Quentin is 100% responsible for just my addiction to it. So
awesome.
You're among good addict company.
Yeah. Yep.
It sounds weird, but it's true.
So, obviously, you are the storyteller for NearDark's Chicago by Night. You are running a V5 Chronicle amazingly well, may I add.
Thank you.
Thank you. What other games do you enjoy playing?
So obviously D&D and Pathfinder. I thoroughly enjoyed Changing the Lost when I did LARP it.
Oh,
so Admittedly, the LARP that I was part of for Mind's Eye Society was a Chronicles of Darkness LARP. So it was VTR, changing the lost and all that. So, but yeah, I think there was a game that Quentin made. It was called Hell's Gate, and that was a lot of fun to play that for a while. He homebrewed all the rules and all that fun stuff. I think it was on a D10 system also. So,
Awesome.
but yeah.
I love Changeling and the Lost. Such a good system and story, and just the dark side of the Fae.
I love it. Love it
The
so
LARP
much.
the LARP must have been really interesting.
The LARP was, it was interesting. It was fairly different from our Vampire LARP. The ST, it was more on like the lighthearted side as far as the hedge went, but it was still a lot of fun. We brought like knickknacks and like little bottles of trinkets and dreams to sell and barter in the Goblin markets for the LARP.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah, it was really fun to play that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually super jealous because I've never played either Dreaming or The Lost for Changeling. I was supposed to get into a Dreaming game back in college, and we made characters, and then the ST had a death in the family or something awful, and
geez.
it just completely fell apart. I really want to, and I think you guys are doing your Changeling one shot.
Yeah, so we've already did our changing one shot. It was a bit of so technical difficulties throughout the start of the stream. I had 2 players drop out at kind of the last minute, so it was a bit of a rocky start. But the players that I did have did phenomenal, and I think everybody kind of digged the combination of Dreaming and Lost that I did. So I definitely took lore from Dreaming and Lost and just smushed it together. So
yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, because both have a lot to offer, especially with the meta plot. So.
Oh yes, so much.
And then I know that also obviously our friends at Red Moon Role Playing are doing a Changeling the Lost game right now, and
I saw that.
Absorbing as much of it as I can. Going, I really want to play this now.
Have you listened to it yet?
Not yet. I need to check out all their podcasts and stuff.
Okay.
It's definitely with work and the holidays, I have very little time with gaming and watching anything.
Yeah.
What about you, Raj?
It's like I was telling you before we started. I actually haven't. I've been like I watched the finale for Chicago, but I'm actually like really behind on it because I don't have time to watch every single episode. Yeah. I'm horrible interview host.
I mean, yeah, just the time involved. You're right. It does take a bit. I was actually going to be waking up in the morning, going to the gym, and just streaming it because, on the phone, which is typically how I do it, or I share an office with somebody. I can't do it at work, so I'm like, well, I just put it, as I'm treadmilling or something or working out, just watch it like that. That just might be the way.
I pitched the idea of possibly putting our stuff on like a podcast app or something, so that if people want to listen like with just the audio, they don't have to go to Twitch or anything like that. So
you 100%
I'd be down for
should,
that.
because that's actually very convenient for me because I drive to work and I listen to podcasts on my drive to and from work. I fully support this plan.
Yeah, I did the same.
All right, we definitely have to jump on that. So,
podcast, do it.
Podcast. There you
go. But jumping back over to Vampire in Chicago, in general, what was your first introduction? I mean, you got your start storytelling with LARPs, you said.
Mm-hmm.
But what was your first introduction playing really to Vampire the Masquerade as a whole? And more importantly, what is your favorite clan?
Okay, so
no judgment.
Lots of judgment.
Jason Carl actually asked me this too, and I froze. I was like, they're all my favorite.
So, I wonder why he didn't ask me and you, Ian.
My start was, like I said before, Chrissy's friend. He got me into it, and so that was my first kind of experience with like role playing games. My first character was a Tremere, and Tremere is my favorite clan. Though we kind of got into debate / like conversation about like who I really identify as. And if I would have to identify as a clan, I probably identify more with Adventure than anything else, because I am a hardcore Capricorn. So, and
I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
and then my second character in Old WoD was a Assamite, and it was a web and knives Assamite too.
Oh, nice.
Ooh,
That's awesome. I feel the venture. I feel the I like Tremere a lot, but I probably am actually a different clan thing, because I really love Tremere, but I'm definitely a Gangrel in real life.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my Tremere had the Path of Living Bolt discipline. I don't know why my ST let me do that.
cool.
He also let
Because
me have
danger.
Protean. So
Ooh.
yeah, it was a super casual game.
Okay.
Cookie had Cthulhu form as a Zenitsu. So I think that in itself says it all. So
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
that
too
was
like
kind
to
of
live dangerously.
yeah. It was a lot of fun back then with the Old WoD stuff. So
Nice. Awesome. So, as I mentioned, Storyteller for NearDark Chicago by Night stream. Give us the high level overview of what happened in season 1 in Chicago by Night, avoiding spoilers as much as possible as we discussed.
high level. So the Chronicle really starts off in my hometown. I'm from the Quad Cities. So
Nice.
at the point in time, I didn't really have, obviously the source book wasn't out yet. I was using a lot of the Old WoD stuff for references with Chicago. So building up to that content, the story takes place in Elysium, where the coterie is assembled by the prince, and they are ordered to go to the Quad Cities because Justicar Lucinde is trying to campaign and take control of that city because it's uninhabited by kindred at the moment. And the reason for that is that the River King, which is an NPC that gets introduced later on further down the Chronicle, is a supportive caitiff that helps supply blood for the circulatory system. So coterie gets their start down there in the Quad Cities. A little bit more backstory stuff is introduced. Some NPCs. We get to meet Jonathan, the Malkavian. We get to meet Eddie Flowers. That's connected to Alistair's Pass. We also get to meet Ludwig van Kaiser, who is a major player in the second half of the season. So, and then later on into the Chronicle, we work into the Lasombra coming into the Camarilla, and definitely more backstory stuff unfolds within the introduction of Capula into the network, and we learn more about Marilyn's sire. So, but
Nice.
yeah, I try and the more I think about it, there's so many things that will kind of spoil stuff, because I know a lot of people that come into our streams from like raids and such, they'll catch it, they'll watch the whole entire thing, and then they'll go back and start rewatching all the episodes. So, but yeah, generally that's kind of the synopsis as far as like the first half of the Chronicle. And there will be a Beckett recap coming out on YouTube.
Nice.
So I had the script done, we shot it, we used the green screen, it looked horrible. So the only thing that came good out of that was me saying dick like 1,000 times, and because I kept screwing up my lines, and Quentin is making a super cut out of that, I guess. So
Awesome.
enjoy that when that comes out.
Awesome.
I was going to suggest it, but he beat me to it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. So I actually, out of that, I've been instructed I have to ask you a question as a general thing, in case people have not watched Chicago or are not familiar with season 1. Tell us about Carl.
Carl. Memphis. Well, what about Memphis?
How did that happen?
How did he happen? Well, Carl is Quentin's best friend.
Yep.
And he actually, I used to play with him with Pathfinder down in the basement and all that fun stuff. But Memphis. Okay. So Carl knew nothing about VTM or the World of Darkness. And as we're kind of, shooting character ideas and coming up with that, he goes, "Can I just be a new vampire?" I'm like, "Yeah, be a child bearer, and that's perfectly fine." And he was like, "Okay, cool." And he sends me his backstory and all that fun stuff. And the character. So are we talking about the character himself, or just like Carl?
Carl. No, we're talking about the character and like, because I mean, everyone who watches Chicago, Memphis is kind of steals the show
Yeah.
relatively frequently. And was that I guess my real question was, was that kind of an intentional thing, or is that just Carl?
That is just that 100% Memphis and Carl. He jokes about it, how he is like, he starts talking in his Memphis voice in actual, like in RL, and he's like, "Oh God, my other side's taking over." But no, that was not intentional at all whatsoever. The whole entire Alistair and Memphis dynamic, that just kind of happened in the first episode 0.
Wow.
So that organically became a thing, and I didn't realize I literally created Batman and Robin. So and I just kept it running, and I was actually in love with it. So
that's fantastic.
What do you have in mind for season 2?
Yeah,
season 2. So season 2, more Guru will be coming in.
Nice.
It will have more of a noir / Gangs of New York feel to it.
Nice.
Definitely more demon stuff. I want to get into folk horror because I have the
nice.
Chicago folio, and I want to start getting into that. Once the weather clears up, I'm actually going to go down to Milton, Illinois. It's about 2 hours from where I'm at, and scope out the area, really get myself familiarized with it. So, yeah, that's
Good
kind of a little preview to season 2.
Awesome.
Nice. So, I mean, one of the other questions we were going to have for you kind of bleeds into that with how do you get prepared for running a session? I mean, obviously, scoping out a location is a great idea. But when you don't have time or the weather to go out and physically check out a place, what are some of the things you like to do to prepare?
So I do a lot of like Google Maps and like doing to the street view to like I'm really visual when I do it, and definitely going to the actual location helps me out a lot. And I mentioned it to Rav earlier when we were celebrating our 2-year anniversary. We went to Milwaukee, and I was kind of had a dual purpose there because Milwaukee will definitely come into play as far as season 2 goes too. But Google Maps, researching the historic sites, researching like the culture there really helps out a lot too as far as preparing for a Chronicle and for Chicago by Night.
Yeah, all good ideas.
Awesome.
I mean, a lot of the by night source books do the same thing. Is usually like an introduction, and the whole first chapter is typically history. Films to watch, books to read. So it's great advice, really, as far as preparing a chronicle, let alone a session.
So physically preparing and learning about the setting is a major part of kind of prepping a chronicle. But in terms of running each session and particularly streaming them, because there's an added pressure there. How do you mentally prep for that? What advice would you give to other people who maybe are just starting running their own game?
So to mentally prep for it, ST wise, I definitely I don't put anything to paper until about the day of, just for me to remember. And but for me to prep, I listen to music. I tend to listen to music that helps me visualize a particular scene that's for that night. And it can be just completely random. Actually, for the River King, I think was it Water Blood in the River? I think I can't quite.
Zealand
Yeah, so
Blood in the
Zealand
River.
gets me. Yeah, gets me in. It's for the River King. Like that is definitely the tone I was going for that particular NPC. So
Nice.
I'm much the same way. I always listen to music to kind of help me get into the right mindset, particularly for the session that I want to run. I can appreciate that a lot. if you had to call out a specific moment, not I mean from Chicago by Night in particular, but also in terms of just your gaming history, it's like a favorite experience or a favorite moment that happened in a game.
So I've been kind of thinking about that, and there was a scene back from our Pathfinder game, and this was streamed. So Cookie, who was playing a paladin, went through a swamp and unfortunately got all these like leeches on his body,
Ooh.
and we thought we removed all of them. The second we get to a stream about maybe a mile or two outside of the city walls, he undoes his armor, and he unfortunately has leeches in his gems in his that area.
It's prison pocket.
So to kind of paint a scene for you, imagine a naked human paladin on his back with his legs spread by a naked dwarf as a bard is trying to remove, also naked, we were all naked, trying to remove these leeches from his private area with a heated dagger. So
that's a best friend for you.
Yeah.
And we were joking about it because like we could just imagine the city guards on the wall with a scope. Hey, is that Gwen out there? Oh God, is that Gwen? Who's with her? Out on a bioma day? Why is he naked? Why is there a dwarf on him? Hey, Steve, come over and look at this.
That's fantastic. Oh my God.
For VTM though, in our chronicle, I got to give it the Cookie as far as my favorite scene when he's in the restroom. I don't know why he's so hell bent on using Theft of Vitae to feed, but he feeds on the guy that holds the towels in the restroom. The Vitae in a busy bar, and the dude he gets interrupted halfway through the feeding, and Kine passes out and hits his head against the sink and begins to bleed profusely. Eventually, enough people build up behind the bathroom door and force their way through, and walks a bouncer, and he sees this. He's like, "What did you do to Steve?" I think it's Steve. I'm not entirely too sure. He was like, "What did you do to Steve?" And he kept using cloud memory and botching the roll for the subterfuge. And just kept wiping his mind over and over and over, trying to get it done. Oh, it's Todd. Oh God, Todd. Yeah, it was Todd. So
Todd is the best name for obscure but highly comedic NPCs.
Yeah. So
our Todd's in Russia now.
It's Groundhog's Day, yes. Yeah, that scene had me, but Memphis breaks me almost every session, I'd say.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He's fantastic. And no, I would like to point out Todd is still happily wandering around Providence unscathed. He was not the one who was sent to Russia.
Oh, that was other Todd.
Yeah.
All the SI agents were like, "We're Todd." I'm like, "Well, Todd, guess what? You're going to Russia."
Poor Todd. Todd is like the red. Todd is the red shirt of the tabletop world.
When they asked me what Todd, the actual SI agent SPC in my Providence game, Todd looked like, I just pulled up Todd from BoJack Horseman. I was like, that's him.
Oh my God.
Yep. True story.
I love that show.
So do I. Although, you know what? Actually, I don't want to talk about that because I'll go on a tangent for half an hour and that'll be most of our interview. But also, it's spoilers for the last season. Okay. So questions, interviews. Yes. So
what game system do you like to run the best?
So I've ran Pathfinder. I think when I ran Pathfinder for the short time that I did,
that is a game.
Rise of the Rune Lords. But my favorite is VTM. Hands down, the Storyteller system. Overall I like DMing or STing for Vampire.
Yeah.
Awesome. That I'm always the black sheep of our group, where my favorite game is actually Call of Cthulhu to run. to the point of I'm actually running basically a Call of Cthulhu storyline in V5 right now for these guys.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
and they're all like, but Vampire, and I'm like, but Call of Cthulhu is so much fun. But no, I that Vampire was really the first game I ran, and it has a special place in my heart as well. Have you run like Old World of Darkness V5? Like, how many editions of it have you run?
So let's kind of talk about that. So how I got started into STing, like I said before, I was part of a VTR LARP. Our ST quit, I think, mid like halfway through, and it just kind of left us high and dry. And I just kind of took the reins, and at that point I've never DM'd or ST'd anything.
Mhm.
So I ST'd basically VTR and V5. That's it. So those are the only two games that I've actually ST'd for. So
Wow.
Awesome.
but
That's awesome.
and I was a player for Old WAD. So
Well, I can say even with that, you are a natural for sure.
thank you.
The Chicago stream is amazing. I do love the way you approach it.
Thank you.
But that said, obviously, since you have been more of a player than a storyteller, tell us who is your favorite character that you've ever played?
So Jaded and Cookie are probably gonna roll their eyes at this, but my favorite character that I've ever played was Lucian Faust. He was a Pathfinder Magus,
Nice.
and he was from the country of Shiliax, which is kind of I don't know how familiar you are with the lore from Pathfinder, but
Yep.
they are a country that is governed by Asmodeus, and they worship Asmodeus. So I based the character off of Crowley from Supernatural.
Nice.
So that is where the Genghis voice comes from in Chicago by Night. And he talks like this, and he's a really cheeky fucker, and really picked on the paladin pretty much 100% of the time. And yeah, I really enjoyed playing Lucian, and it had a bit of a redeeming arc eventually throughout that campaign. It was really fun.
Good.
That's awesome. I'm gonna ask one more of our like kind of standard questions, but then we're gonna open it up to some viewer questions for a minute. I saw one filter in a minute ago, so we'll ask that one first. So in terms of Vampire Pathfinder, what is a game that you've never played that you really want to dig into?
Well, Call of Cthulhu is one of them. I want to definitely delve deeper into Eldritch Horror. I've played a couple like board games of it, but I've never actually played a tabletop setting. I want to eventually play Werewolf. I've never played Werewolf, and I've never played Mage. Those are two staples of the old WAD and like VTM or World of Darkness that I want to play. So there's actually a lot of games that I want to play, but I think I'm at that point now where I just have our Pathfinder campaign, and that's going to be about it. So
I feel you.
I don't think I'm ever going to get to play a vampire ever again.
You will forever be the storyteller for that one now. You doomed yourself. I did the same thing. Are you excited for Werewolf 5th edition?
Oh, I'm super excited.
That's good.
I'm definitely excited for all of the books to finally be on one system and for them to flow together. So it's going to make my life a whole lot easier as far as bouncing like old world mechanics and putting them into V5. So yeah, I'm stoked. We're kind of talking about that today as far as running that and streaming it, and a couple of ideas as far as lighting goes for the Werewolf Chronicle when we do start that.
Awesome. Well, that will be exciting. Fewer questions. So we did have one filter in earlier, and it was, do you use anything like My Maps or any mapping tools to actually like customize the maps that you're messing with?
No, I've never used anything like that. My D&D/Pathfinder DMing was very short, so I've never world build like Quentin has. I applaud him on that. The fact that he actually made a whole entire world and continent and cities, it's absolutely nuts. but I've never used anything like that, and that's probably why I lean into World of Darkness a little more, because of they take place in
Yeah.
Real life and Chicago and all that fun stuff. But for Changeling was a little difficult, and for me at first doing that one shot. So if we do revisit it, I'll probably end up do some world building for that, for like the hedge and like towns and stuff like that. So because that's definitely gonna be homebrewed. I've taken both Dreaming and, like I said earlier, Dreaming and Lost and squished them together.
That's awesome. I'm very interested in that, and it'll be exciting to see what your group what the NearDark crew pulls together for future one shots or even a potential chronicle. Hint, hint, hint. We have a question from Jaded. Are you the one who's going to run werewolf, or are you going to make someone else do it?
I'm probably gonna be the one that runs werewolf.
That's not the right answer.
I'm being honest with myself. It's probably gonna be me. So, and the nice thing too, and the reason why I do want to run it is obviously I want to merge it into our VTM Chronicle. So
cool. Yeah, I think that'll be exciting. Are you going to wait for? Probably not, because I'm assuming it's probably a year or two out. But are you going to wait for 5th edition, or are you going to adapt like 20th anniversary for?
So we might do a one shot of 20th anniversary and not have it. Well, it possibly it could. The lore would probably bleed into our chronicle and the backstory, but our actual like chronicle for werewolf won't start until V5 comes out.
Cool. Awesome.
We have a community question where ask him about Kaz.
Oh,
what's that? Oh yeah.
Kaz?
Ask him about Kaz.
Yeah. Okay. So for people that haven't seen our D&D campaign 2 first episode, it's I believe being uploaded to YouTube, or you can catch it on our VOD. But he is a drow that is in our campaign for that, and Kaz is Kaz is a very flirtatious, very coy character, and it was really different for me as far as role-playing wise as a player in a D&D setting, because I've always played like a stoic character or an asshole, but yeah, definitely Kaz is it's different for me, and I'm enjoying role-playing as Kaz, and I'm also going to cosplay as Kaz at Gen Con. So
awesome.
That's my current gym goals are
Nice.
revolving around my drow, so and it sucks the amount of cutting I'm doing.
Cosplay is a good end goal for working out. I will say that. I have similar ones, not for Gen Con, just in general, but yeah. In terms of mage, because you mentioned it once or twice, do you have a preference for Ascension or Awakening?
I know very little about mage.
Okay.
When people at the LARP were talking about mage, I just stood there with my mouth open. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like it's like my brain was like, so. I'll probably read into both of them, like I did with Changeling. I'll check out both and see what they have to offer. So.
You're gonna go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Awesome. Okay. I'm gonna move back into kind of our scripted questions. More into how you run games and your storytelling style, because that's really what we want to pick your brain about. What would you say in terms of prep? How much time do you put into both the chronicle, like the season 1, as well as the individual sessions, and then how much of it is like improv, and how much you kind of just adapt to what Memphis is doing, because really it's what Memphis is doing.
Yes. So as far as time goes into it, I actually spend throughout my work week on my breaks, and I'll spend like 1 to 2 hours throughout the work week on it, and then like on my days off or like the day beforehand, I'll spend like 6 to 8 hours on a session. As far as the Chronicle goes, I didn't have any time to prep it. So session 0, and I'm going to lay this out right now. Session 0 was a birthday present to Quentin. 100%. I didn't have any expectations that like we were going to roll into episode 1 the week after. So the whole entire Chronicle was kind of it was developed as we went. I didn't have like 2 to 3 months to prep the Chronicle at all whatsoever, because we streamed episode 0, and obviously with some of the rules and the rulings and all that fun stuff, I have barely dug into the book. So yeah, I mean, after that though, I've been investing a lot of my free time, hence why I haven't touched my Xbox or PlayStation or Switch for a while. It's just collecting dust. But yeah, at least an hour to 2 every day throughout the week, and then on the weekends it's like 6 to 8 hours for the stream and such. So
that's awesome. It's interesting because we've talked to other people who are like, I prep for like an hour or 2 before each session, and then here's the flip side. It's funny that you brought up the whole like it was kind of not planned, because I remember watching episode 0 and then episode 1, and you're basically like, I guess this is a thing we're doing now.
yes.
That's fantastic, because I mean it was picked up so quickly by the just the vampire community, and it's really awesome to see how loved your particular story is.
Yeah, the community keeps us going, and their love and support is definitely appreciated, and that's why I try to thank them with at the end of every stream, and to see that how well receptive we are of it. And of course, on YouTube, there's a couple negative comments like know the rules before you stream it, blah blah blah. But yeah. It's YouTube.
The only thing worse than YouTube is Reddit. So, and now everyone on Reddit is going to flame Gehenna Gaming. But you know what?
Bring it on.
You're still a trash heap.
We have a question from the chat.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna ask that one?
I'm totally gonna ask that one.
Do it.
It's a little bit of a loaded question, but it comes from someone called NearDark Studios. What's your favorite thing about each coterie member?
All right. Okay, Glenn. All right. So my favorite thing about every coterie member, for one, Memphis. I like how naive he is. And that's why I jumped over the idea of Carl playing a character that was relatively new to everything, because he was, and I love it because with Memphis, you get to see the side of the coin where you're watching a kindred start delving into the society of the Camarilla and the Anarchs and the political side of it, and questioning his humanity. And then you have someone like Alistair. The reason why he's like my favorite, because, well, not my favorite, but the thing I like about him is that, for one, Quentin plays a fantastic elder, an elder Ventru at that. And my favorite thing about him is that he has all this experience and lore, and trying to watch him work with, I think the oldest besides Alistair in the coterie is Marilyn, and him trying to work with these Neonites and like manage Memphis, just watching him try to teach and mentor him, but can't pin him down. It's one thing I do enjoy about Alistair. Marilyn, I like how, and the Marilyn, and as Jaded as a role player, I like how she can take something like a puzzle or a situation, and she definitely looks at it with a different set of eyes that I don't even catch, and it translates into Marilyn, and I absolutely love it. And as far as Erwin goes, his bestial fails. I show up every night to just watch him, on like basically the second roll of the night. I like how socially awkward Erwin is, as far as the trope of that character goes. I like seeing him in risque situations completely flutter. But yeah, I mean, be brief as far as what I like about their characters.
I do like that one of your favorite things about that character is his bestial fails.
Yeah.
We have
My
a
favorite
go for it.
my favorite thing about this character is how much he fucks up.
I'm sorry, Cookie. It's just, God
I
damn it.
really like you as a person, but I like it when your beast makes you do something horrible even better.
It's just like Bible thump. It's the only possible reaction. Oh, I will say though, I like what you said about Maryland too, because I mean that is kind of what makes a good Malkavian too, and that's
Absolutely.
really where that ties in. I think personally, I know because people were joking that you picked a favorite, or they're very serious, and you're going to get beat up next time you see them. That's one of the things I particularly love about the stream is that like Maryland is like a really good because it's really easy to fuck up Malkavians. And Maryland, Jaded, you play a fantastic Malkavian. Congratulations! I think you do that perfect line of seeing things from a very unusual angle and then portraying it without being a crazy person and like that stereotype. So, right, thank you.
Kudos to you.
Yes, but I mean, everyone is fantastic for the reasons you mentioned and others. I don't particularly play favorites. Riddle and Riddlin, you're not my favorite.
Oh, we're gonna hear about that now.
I'm just gonna be mean to Rain because he asked a question. I'm refusing to ask.
Like, I don't have favorites, but I know who's not my
favorite.
On that Malkavian note, though, real talk. I think Clan Malkavian is probably the underutilized clan in most chronicles that I hear about.
Oh yeah.
And there's such a fantastic clan, and when I hear about storytellers not utilizing their Malkavian players, just kind of like it hurts me. So, but yeah, she does a fantastic job as a Malk.
Yeah,
She sure does.
Agreed. So, in terms of running Chicago, but other games, the one shots you've done, and as well as the games that you want to run, everyone we speak to, all of the storytellers and the game masters like to incorporate specific kinds of themes into their games. They like to incorporate a specific aspect of the world of darkness or the horror that is meant to be captured in it. What are your favorite aspects of horror and the themes that you like to incorporate into Chronicles that you're running currently, but in general?
So with Changeling and like introducing like Changeling stuff into our VTM Chronicle, I really like the idea of you being in this alien place, not knowing where you are, going down the wrong, part of the hedge. You could be, lost forever. I definitely like that aspect and that theme. As far as like theming for like our Chronicle, I thoroughly enjoy like really hardcore drama. Like I definitely like it to where I can get a player so emotionally invested into either an argument or something about an NPC passing away. Uh, I enjoyed those moments. We had one of those moments last night as we closed out season 1, and I was particularly super happy on how that scene unfolded. So, and I'll be getting to some different themes that I've never really experienced or tried before. So like with noir and the folk horror themes as far as horror goes, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, those are some of the themes I like getting into.
That's awesome.
Very good. It'll be good to see you try different themes and have you back on again to talk about how they went, how you felt about them, and it's just good to explore and grow.
It really
whether
is.
you're a player or a storyteller.
You touched on folk horror a couple times, and that's a big one for me. I love folk horror. What how do you incorporate that into kind of like a Metropolis City vampire game? How do you pull those threads in?
That's a good question. Because I'm looking at the manuscript for the Chicago Folios and like looking back at my Chronicle notes, and I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, why are they going to go to Milton, Illinois? And uh, I don't really. That's going to be a tough one for me. It really is, especially in the Chicago setting. Because when you look at, because I was actually Google mapping Milton, Illinois, it definitely you look at the area, it's a small town. The first thing on Google Images is this huge like Baptist church, and like definitely like screams like this is where some folk horror shit goes down. So I don't know. I'm gonna have a lot of difficulties working that into Chicago. I think the coterie may be taking a trip somewhere for a day or two. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a challenge for me to try to work that theming into an urban area, like you said. So
Awesome.
Very good.
That's sweet. I'm interested to see what season 2 brings. I will obviously finish catching up on season 1 beforehand.
Same.
Sorry.
That's cool. They're 4 hours long.
It's like we were talking before the stream started about how just like trying to run streams and run games and everything, and then keep up on everyone else's that you enjoy
hard.
is so hard. Obviously, and you answered one of the questions we were going to ask about familiarizing yourself with the setting and the characters, area and the characters, but crafting the SPCs, the NPCs that you're running. And I'm going to ask you about one in particular, and I think you probably can guess which one.
Okay.
How did you develop them to be play such integral parts, particularly Von Kaiser?
Von Kaiser. So Von Kaiser was part of Alistair's backstory, obviously, and he gave me his backstory and just kind of let me have free game, and a lot of them did too. They're like, yeah, have fun with it, do what you want with it. And Von Kaiser definitely is his Joker to his Batman. I would have to describe that. Von Kaiser, I miss him. He's so much fun to play as. And Ludwig, I definitely wanted him to be the sadistic type of, and he's independent too at that. Von Kaiser, man, obviously I woven in some demon stuff with Von Kaiser and with like Capula, and as far as like really pulling at the heartstrings is when he went after Memphis' family, and God damn it, I'm talking about spoilers right now. But overall, working Ludwig into it and introducing him in the first half, the first part of our chronicle, and just having him, vanish off the grid, and like, oh, we're probably done with that guy, and then here he comes and just pops up, and working him into Marilyn's backstory was pretty pivotal too, and I wanted a reason. I wanted Von Kaiser to do or take actions that would cause all the coterie members to have an issue with him, and they have a common goal to work towards. I believe it was a line that Memphis said, like, we're all going to help you with this, Alistair. We're all part of this now. He made this personal with me. But yeah, and his voice, if I'm being completely honest right now, he may be based off a particular villain from Hellsing. So.
No, really.
But and I kind of I put in a little bit of like the voice I used for Genghis and Lucian, that kind of raspiness to it. So
that's awesome.
But yeah,
Nice.
That's really cool. I'm going to ask you a question that we've asked a couple people, particularly Quentin, actually. The voices you do.
Okay.
How do you pick the so I'm approaching this from a storyteller who doesn't do voices because I'm terrible at them. How do you pick the voice for the character, and then like how long do you spend developing it and kind of picking those aspects like you were just mentioning, where like for Von Kaiser you pulled a little bit from the villain from Helsing and a little bit from Genghis. Like how much time do you spend developing that, and kind of how do you approach it?
So back to when I prep for the games for like an hour and two during the work week, I may or may not talk myself in my car on break. It looks really weird because I'm super animated when I do it. And as far as like picking a voice for a character, I don't know. I read through their backstory. I see kind of like what their heritage and like if there's a certain type of dialect they would use or an accent. Like obviously with like ads, I definitely put that like Jamaican spin on it. Hopefully I do it justice and I think for me it helps me role play for one and helps me to get into character. And it's a little flair that I can sprinkle in into my S team that I can do a little differently than some people. But as far as picking the voices, this really like delving into their backstory, their looks kind of play into it a bit, and I will kind of go through like either shows that I watched, movies, comparing them to either heroes or villains and I'm a huge voice actor fan. Uh, so I thoroughly obviously enjoy a lot of my anime and stuff, and I've kind of sort of low key always wanted to do voice acting. I've always wanted to be a voice actor, so I thought that would have been kind of cool to pursue, but I never did it. But yeah, with Von Kaiser, you have Wunderbar, Mr. Grayson, Wunderbar. Or you have Kevin Jackson, who kind of has a bit of a Southern twang. It's funny, Kevin Jackson is a combination of Christopher Walken and Markiplier. So
And
that's
who?
how I get that Markiplier. So,
Oh,
it's like, hi, everybody. We're doing some Happy Wheels today. And I would combine it with Christopher Walken and put a bit of a Southern twang. And that's how you get Memphis Mambo. That's
nice.
I don't know. That's how I can kind of picture combining voices and getting to where I get to Kevin Jackson or
Nice.
Krios. So
Well, I mean, what you're really doing is you're building your confidence and you're building a catalog of characters, so that if you ever really wanted to do voice acting, you could just point them to your stream, right?
I wish.
I mean, I would definitely say you should look into it more.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed. I think one of the reasons that I don't do voices that when I started trying to do them, I was like, well, that sounds terrible. I'm never doing this again, and I never bothered developing being able to do it. So I'm always very impressed when people are it seems very natural when they do, like just bouncing back and forth. I'm like, that's awesome. That's so cool. Um,
Have you ever had to do a? I mean, obviously you have a ton of NPCs. Was there anyone you had to make, kind of like on a whim, that you just picked a celebrity,
Oh my gosh.
mimicked them, and just kind of ran with? My most recent one was Charles Manson.
So there was our DuckTales one shot, and I was totally
Yeah.
not prepped for that because I didn't realize we're playing DuckTales. And I haven't seen that show in like 18 years or whatever it was. Yeah, I did Christopher Walken as a character from DuckTales, and that got super dark super quick. Because apparently I was also addicted to cocaine. But
Nice.
yeah,
It's not just
no.
gold in that vault.
Yeah, so there was a scene where me and Cookie are having a confrontation with our characters, and I reach into my drawer and I pull out a soldering iron. And I couldn't. It's like, you have a soldering iron? I was like, I guess I do. I don't know. And but all the time on VTM, all the time as far as like just making a character on the fly, because you have players like Quentin who will just go to. I'll plan for a character to not be talked to. Like, oh, this is just for ambience. Like, this guru's here just for ambience. Quentin's like, no, I want to go talk to that person. What's his name? What are you about? Like come on. So, I was like, stop. So no, that's a character and it's a thing now. So
that's I don't know which direction. I can't see the camera. That's him. That's Steph Malkavian in my. He's like, I'm gonna go talk to I'm gonna call the police and invite them. I'm like, okay, I need to make up 2 NPCs on the fly now. Shit, what are you doing to me?
Shame on you. You should have them ready, sir.
I'm good at improv.
You are.
Thank you.
Can I help you with this?
You do. I get to practice every time I run my sessions. No, I've actually particularly loved the one shots you guys have been doing too,
Thank you.
because it's been so much fun watching you just bounce back and forth. I'm gonna ask a question about a one shot now, and I need you to answer truthfully.
Okay.
Why did you not all play Boggarts?
Oh, Boggart.
We were expecting a Boggart Bard one shot,
Yeah,
and it didn't happen, and I am very disappointed.
well, the community totally was able to make that happen, and somehow we ended up a different race and different no, there were several classes. It almost was like, I think almost everybody was playing barbarians at one point. And just like it was crazy. No, I was disappointed too. I was actually, I wanted to play a Boggart.
You and I were on the Boggart train. We were both like, yes, everyone Boggarts.
Make it happen, because I was working on my voice all week and wanting to do that, and because I wanted them to sound like Stitch. I was like, and I wanted to do it, and it didn't happen. I also wanted him to be like blue and small and evil. So
no, that was a missed opportunity, and I demand it.
It was.
As I know Quentin was on board too. I'm gonna blame Jaded.
Fair.
So, serious topics, not silly topics. We've talked a lot about how much you've gotten to play with like Alistair's backstory and the other ones. How much do you, and obviously with all the prep you do, how much do you pull in the backstories and really craft the story around the players' backstories versus kind of an overarching plot that you want to do?
So I would say it's probably about like a 60-40 split. 60% of like the plot I come with it, and 40% of like my player's backstory. I definitely, as far as my ST style goes, I think it's super important to put as much of your player's backstory into the chronicle that you can, and definitely sit on some stuff so you're not completely, putting it all out there right away and it's done and over with. Now it's just your plot. Because there's definitely a lot more things that are going to be unfolded about Marilyn, Irwin, Alistair, and Memphis. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, especially Alistair. Alistair sent me a flipping novel for his backstory. And he's sending me more. Can
I ask how many pages is it?
I think it was well over like 14, something crazy. I don't. Okay. It was a big one. There's a family tree too.
I'll let my wife know she still wins. She has.
Okay.
She just finished a 17-page backstory for a character she hasn't played in almost a year.
Oh my gosh!
Because the chronicle ended, and she was like, "I need to finish fleshing out the backstory."
Oh my gosh!
So I have experience with stupid long backstories.
But I think it's detrimental. To have your players' backstories entwined into the chronicle. They're the focal point. They're the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
What do you think? Obviously, we kind of all are on the same page there. How do you adapt to a player who doesn't really have a much of a backstory or doesn't know how to craft one? Someone newer. What do you do there?
So as far as helping a player that doesn't have much of a backstory and getting them invested with the chronicle and getting invested into the story, more or less like I'll observe like their play style, what they're more geared towards. Are they more combat orientated? Are they more intrigue orientated? And trying to work in those plot hooks for those players. That's how I developed that. I more or less like for those type of players, I will observe them and watch them and how they interact with like the rest of the party or the coterie, and kind of go off that way. And if there's anything from my plot that intrigues them, then I'll start working that into their backstory. So
Nice.
We've talked a lot about the one shots and a lot of
Mhm.
the fun stuff that you did in between season 1 and 2 Death Attack. What
Mhm.
what can we expect to see of the coming Mondays to kind of fill the time till we get season 2? And also, do you want to give us a hint on when we're going to see season 2?
So, obviously, the holidays are here with Christmas and all that fun stuff, and I still haven't done any shopping. So we're all going to be relatively busy for the next coming weeks. We're still going to be running D&D 5e, from my understanding, on Sundays. So we will still have something streaming.
Awesome.
Hugh is planning on doing coteries in New York. So I may try to do a one shot. I'm not entirely too sure, but really it's kind of a break for us from role playing a little bit. I'm not saying we're burnt out. It's just we need a break. So
That's perfectly understandable.
as far as content, though, we are not stopping making content for you guys. That's 90% of the reason why we're taking a break is so that we can finally get the Beckett recap done. The recap needs to be done. So the reason why we've been having so many issues with it is that the place that we want to shoot it has been kind of bouncing back and forth with us. We have to find a new location.
Yeah.
Locations is the key right now for us with that. So once we pump that out, there's some shorts I know that we're planning. Captain Camarillo, I think it's one of them, where it's the Alistair VHSs, and we're going to try to shoot it in a way where it's like taking place in the 80s.
Oh, nice.
So that's something that's in the pipeline.
Awesome.
I got a couple of ideas of some short skits. One that I'm kind of throwing on in my head is called Vampire Drive, where it's basically going to be just Alistair and Memphis in a car together talking. So because that's
That will end
some
in
of my
bloodshed.
favorite I absolutely love it when they get together and just start talking about Kindred Society or just things just Memphis has no idea about.
I know,
So so yeah, there's some one shots and I'm planning. I'm going to revisit Changeling and
Awesome.
possibly do that.
Very
so.
good.
Very cool. That's very exciting. I think it'll be fun to see more new stuff come out in the meantime, but definitely take the much needed and well deserved break that you have earned at this point.
Thank you.
Speaking of one shots,
Mhm.
if you could run a one shot for anyone in the world,
Yes, I like this question.
who would you want to sit at your table? And what game would you run?
So I've actually thought about this question a couple times, especially when you asked Q back in his interview about this. The person, unfortunately, it's impossible for me because they've passed away, is Robin Williams. So Robin Williams was a huge part of my childhood. He was my favorite actor. He's actually the reason why I got into as far as doing impressions and like wannabe voice acting, I guess. So in Mrs. Doubtfire, he played a voice actor and a so that whole entire scene from that movie, it was like 3 minutes, but kind of captured me and that held my interest as a child. But yeah, Robin Williams 100% would be sitting at my table if he could, and I would love to do like a D&D tabletop with him.
That'd be awesome.
So
Yeah.
That would,
yeah.
100%. That would be near the top of my list. It's funny because I think it was the interview with Q. I think he threw the question back at us, and my answer was awful because I was like, "Oh God, I didn't think about this at all." Robin
Well, no,
Williams
you
is
thought
good.
about it. You thought about it, right?
Yeah,
So, like, who would
I
you
have actually. I have thought about it.
Somebody said Trent Reznor last time too.
Oh, that would be weird. That would be interesting. So
Yeah.
sadly, actually, half of half of the table are people who asked for me. Robin Williams is actually one of them. David Bowie.
David Bowie.
David Bowie, that would be interesting. But I in my head for some reason picture David Bowie from Venture Brothers. Like he's just like, and he's actually a superhero. And then I think it would probably be The Rock and Terry Crews.
Oh my gosh, both those
Good choices.
guys together would be amazing.
Right? Yeah.
What about for you, Rick? Who would be at your table?
Patrick Stewart.
You said him before last time. And I don't disagree with you at all in any way, shape, or form.
Comedian Stephen Wright, the guy who's like wicked deadpan. But then I wouldn't be able to breathe throughout most of the session. I'd be laughing. Good question. I don't know.
You know, so Jada just said that was Q in chat, and it made me think John Delancey.
John Delancey.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really tempted to just go all Star Trek, but
you could.
I want some variety too.
Yeah.
I know, I love Star Trek.
It would be kind of awesome.
I know. I would love to get Captain Sisko in there. Avery Brooks.
So in terms of running and playing, we've talked kind of about like favorite characters and what your favorite system. But like, what's your favorite aspect of running a game? Like, what when you're sitting behind the storyteller screen or the GM screen, like what is the thing that you enjoy the most?
Or find most rewarding, I guess.
Yeah. So, when I started STing in the LARP and just kind of got thrown into it, the thing that kind of caught me, and I would say I was kind of addicted to it, was seeing the players like after game talking about the plot and conversing amongst each other and theorizing and like he's going to do this or this and this, and I absolutely love that. My favorite thing when we close out the stream with Chicago by Night is seeing like Q get super excited or he like slams his fist down and having to wait a whole entire week to conclude a scene or an event. Seeing that that's my favorite aspect about storytelling. Seeing making someone's day or better, that bliss and joy you can get out of your players from something that you've crafted over hours, months, time, and seeing it really pull off. That's my favorite aspect of it. So especially back when I did LARP, so we LARPed in Davenport, and we had, I think, 3 surrounding cities that would come into the game just for the story that I was telling. So there was times where I had 25 people in this freaking house STing for them. So definitely, that's my favorite part about it.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
You wanna take our last question, Rick?
Certainly. And your cat is photobombing us again.
Oh, cat stream.
You guys have also been doing a lot of one-shots, a lot of different fun things, leading up to season 2 of Death Attack. Mm-hmm. What can we expect while we wait for Chicago by Night? I know we've already kind of gone over a lot of it, but
yeah. So like I said before, as far as like Beckett recap and new shorts, obviously I'll be spending that time writing content for season 2. Now Death Attack is full and go, so like definitely check that out. The person who I learned a lot of my STing and DMing from is Quentin, 110%. His DMing style and ST style translates into mine, and I've augmented to how it works for me. And obviously there's storytellers from like the LARPs and who we originally ran World of Darkness with that I learned from them. As far as content and stuff to expect from us, we're definitely going to try to focus more on YouTube, just because we're trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark so that we can start monetizing the videos and start putting more funding into the studio, so we don't have lights dying in the middle of the stream or the mixer messing up or anything along those lines. So because definitely everything from Twitch and all that's going right back into production to make the show better for everybody.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, we aim to help you guys reach that goal and keep sharing all the good stuff you do.
100%.
Super appreciate it.
Oh, we love you guys, of course.
Thank you.
So I'm going to open it up again to viewer questions and pop a few more in. Marchosius, hi Mark, asked, what is your go-to impression? What's your like favorite one that you like? Yep, that's the impression I'm going to do.
So my go-to when I was younger was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's funny because Quentin's little brother, Hexy used to work with all of his brothers at the grocery store, and he would hunt me down, and he would just say, "Do it." It was your dad. Get to the chopper. It's your daddy. And what does he do? Shit, that's Captain Jackson. Man, it's been a while since I've done it, but okay, class, we're gonna play a little game. Who's your daddy and what does he do? And so he would just like hunt me down and have me do it. Walking would be like a go-to as far as, hi, my name is Christopher Walken, and today we are going to be playing Happy Wheels. All right, kiddies, here we go. And so yeah, that's some of my go-tos as far as like impressions go. But yeah.
Nice. Marchosius said you could turn that into a solid Trump impression. Not sure I'm going to encourage that one.
Best impressions, and they're just fantastic. Ask anybody.
Oh my gosh.
Gross.
Gross.
And we're going to take a break because I need to take a shower and rinse the off of my butt.
Oh, this Cheeto dust.
Why is the water orange? Melania, you been drinking sun-kissed in my back.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, nice. I'm okay with this. Anyway, I can't remember exactly who asked this because it's way up in there, and I noted the question down. How do you keep Memphis in check?
Oh god, I struggle with that so much. So back to prepping games and such, I used to do like 8 pages of.
Oh, you broke up. You had the mic issue.
All right.
There you go.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right. So I used to prep like 8 pages worth of content for the streams, and I don't do that anymore. Basically, on my notes, I have a scenario, and it's basically have the coterie deal with Morgan, period, and it just stops there. Like there's no option A, B, C, or anything along those lines. It's just because I know Memphis is there, and Memphis is going to do something Memphis does.
Memphis is going to do option Y, and
yeah, and so he's maybe a better improver. He's definitely made it. He puts my head on a swivel, that's for sure. And so yeah, keeping Memphis in check, I leave that up to Alistair. So I'm just afraid it's going to get to a point in the Chronicle where Alistair's just going to kill Memphis. So because Alistair's almost killed Erwin.
Like I said, if you're going to do Alistair and Memphis in a car and their conversations, I feel like one of those is going to end in bloodshed. At least one of them.
Oh my gosh.
Television, though.
It's good television.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to open this up for one more question, and then we are going to let Elijah get some sleep, because I know we asked you to do a little bit of a late stream for you.
Let's go, sure.
So I'm going to let Rain ask a question. I'm going to be nice.
Oh, no. No, he's going to ask me for shoes.
He's already tried that like 3 times. If it's about PF Flyers, I'm not asking it. Yep, go ahead. But it can't be about PF Flyers.
No PF Flyers.
No PF Flyers. It's not allowed. I'll ban you. He's like, oh.
Do you want to know the story on that? Do you know why he asked me about PF Flyers?
You know what? You can tell the story, and I will let Rain think of a question that doesn't have to do with PF Flyers.
So I was rather inebriated one night, and we were playing World of Warcraft. It was Q and Cookie and myself, and Rain was in the Discord. And I had a couple drinks in me, and I get a little generous when I have a couple drinks in me. So I was like, "Hey, Rain, I'll buy you World of Warcraft. Get the new expansion. Play with us." He's like, "Oh no, I don't want World of Warcraft. But you know what I do want? I want some PF Flyers." And I was like, "No, Rain, I'm not buying you shoes. You're gonna play. I'm offering you to buy the game with you." And he's like, "No, I really want those PF Flyers." And ever since that night, I don't know if he thinks I was too drunk to not remember it or what have you, but he's trying to convince people that I promised him something. I didn't promise him that. I promised him World of Warcraft. That is what was promised.
Well, Rain, your options are being shoeless for the rest of your life or World of Warcraft. So I feel like you only have one real option here. Oh man. Marciosius did play a Ventrue who kept stealing people's shoes, and it was amazing.
It was hilarious.
Now he's like, I don't even have a question. It was just going to be about PF Flyers. Okay. Well, you know what, Rain? You have lost your opportunity.
You had time.
Yeah, we gave you the full story. I'm sorry, man.
Give me your shoes.
Yeah, Marchosius played a Ventrue, and I don't know why, but he was very like, yeah, like we knocked out a guard, and he like took his shoes and like tied the shoelaces together. And he's wearing like a nice suit, and he's got like a Rolex and everything. It's like a businessman Ventrue, typical. And the next thing you know, he's taking someone's shoes, throwing them over his shoulders. He's just carrying an extra pair of shoes around. He's not wearing them. He's just, like carrying them.
What?
Yeah, and then Marchosius will have to tell the story, but it was, and a couple other times it was like, get his shoes. I want his shoes.
Yeah.
We're like, what's up with you with the shoes, dude? It was a one shot.
I'm like positive he used compel to make someone give him his shoes at one point too. He was just like, give me the shoes. Final question.
Okay.
Final question. Are you still planning on running a Chicago by Night LARP at Gen Con?
So yes, it's 100% the plan. And like I mentioned earlier, I need to figure out the logistics of that because with Gen Con, you have to pre-register for all the games.
Yep.
But I want it to be like I wanted it just for our community, because it's a thank you to them. It's a thank you to all, and
yep.
But obviously not a lot of them will be able to make it out because we have a lot of European and like over the seas viewers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and for them, I plan on doing Roll20 games, and I'm currently trying to figure out the API and all that stuff for the V5 system. So, but yeah, that's the plan right now. I definitely will probably end up having to try to convince people to AST for me. So, because if it gets to the point where it's like 30, 35 people, 40 people, I can't do that. So, and it will be taking place in Chicago.
Cool.
And like I mentioned, I am a bit of a cosplayer, so I like fabricating things. So one of my ideas for it is that for like the tables in the room at Gen Con, I plan on putting like signs that light up that says like red number 5, Succubus Club. So
awesome. That's really cool. Well, I know, if you're looking for assistant storytellers, you know a group of people who run games kind of as a job for conventions. So,
by the way, kudos to you guys with running that many VTM sessions at I mean that looked nuts. So you probably were completely exhausted after that. So
yes,
we'll talk about that a little bit in our surprise post interview stream that Def Malkavian and I are going to do. I think from Thursday to Sunday, I got 13 hours of sleep.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Man.
I know some people in the group got less, some got more than that, but yeah, it was nuts. But it was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
After running for 12 hours on Friday, I felt like there was steam coming off of my head. It was bad.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
It was so much fun.
well worth it though. You brought new players in and had returning players discovering the V5 system. So
Do it again in a heartbeat for sure.
Yeah.
kudos,
Thank you.
fantastic work, guys. So
Thank you.
Appreciate it, really. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, we would be more than happy to help out if as you need for organizing any events at Gen Con, because we will be there.
I'm super excited because I definitely want to share a drink with you guys. So
Heck yeah.
That will also be a thing, and we'll talk about more. We'll talk about that more later too. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's been a pleasure.
Is there anything you want to point people to? Anywhere people can find you online? I dropped the link to your Twitter in chat a little bit earlier, and obviously the NearDark YouTube and Twitch channels. But anything else you want to give a shout out to, talk about?
Definitely want to shout out our D&D 5e campaign too that Quentin runs. I definitely you need to check his DMing style out. If you like my style, then you're gonna absolutely love his because he's who I learned everything from. So I'm definitely excited to role play with the group setting that we have now because it's different from what we had from campaign 1. So I definitely want to give that a shout out too, and definitely check out like Vancouver by Night. I know there's like DC by Night. So the families definitely have grown so much more. We have LA by Night. I know they probably don't need a shout out, but for those of you who are living underneath a rock, the new season has been announced, and that the World of Darkness channel.
Yes, the Twitch.
Yeah, twitch.tv/World of Darkness is going to be moving over there.
Awesome.
And of course there's Long Beach by Night as well. B-Dave's homebrewed V5 game.
Yeah, Long Beach by Night. Yep. Someone I think from Vancouver actually put out a list of streams that there is now for like the World of Darkness, and it's ginormous and it's still growing. So
we try to showcase a little bit of that on our French page with our Gehenna Gaming website. So if anyone has any suggestions as far as other groups to put on there, I know we have Simulacrum Studios and their Burn It Down, Roll For It. There's such a great community. We want to spread the love. We love meeting fans, other collaborators, other people who run stuff. So yeah, the more the merrier.
Oh yeah, and someone said in chat, Seattle by Night for sure.
Oh yeah,
and definitely, and one of the things that attracts me to that show is seeing Jason in a different setting from LA. I definitely the family's growing. It's an excellent community. I'm glad to be a part of it. So
actually, if you really want to see Jason Carl in a different setting, he's going to be a player in Red Moon Role Playing's Cult of the Blood Gods
just saw that today.
Podcast, and I may have made noises at work. I was like, I'm sure I got weird looks from some of my coworkers because I was like, what is this? So excited. That'll be fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us. As always, make sure everyone check out NearDark Studios. Sunday nights is their D&D game that Q runs. Monday nights is typically the Chicago by Night game that Elijah here runs. On a hiatus till season 2, but I'm sure we'll get some fantastic one-shots in the meantime. And like you said, Vancouver by Night, Long Beach by Night over on I'll drop a link to that channel because I can never remember exactly the order of words in that one because my brain doesn't work right sometimes. DC by Night over at Mixstabber Studios, LA by Night if you haven't seen it. It's Jaded keeps saying Witcher. I think thank you, Q times. I wanted to say time Q. That's why I was screwing that up.
Yes, thanks, Josephine.
Yes, thank you.
And one last shout out I'd also want to do real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, no, of course.
I just wanted to pull up his name. So I know he goes by Mike. It's Joe's Mike. Did our art for our campaign 2. So if you go into our Discord, we actually have a link to his website and his Instagram. But he did a phenomenal job. So I'm just gonna call him Mike because I feel like I'm gonna butcher the last name. So, but yeah, I follow him both on Twitter and Instagram, and he puts out an amazing art. So, and thank you, Mike.
Would you mind tweeting that out tonight so we can find it and check it out?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
follow Elijah
Pinot
and
Boy.
Pinot Boy, or follow Gehenna Gaming on Twitter at Gehenna Gaming, and we'll definitely retweet that later.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us, Elijah.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you. It was a pleasure getting to finally chat with you face to face, so to speak.
I look forward to the future, especially with Gen Con around the corner, and just speaking with you guys again. So
Yeah, definitely. And once give us a sneak, give us a heads up when season 2 is going to start. We'll get you on again.
yeah,
Talk about it.
Yeah, build the buzz.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take like a 5-minute break. Our channel is going to go offline for a couple seconds while I switch out some stuff in OBS, and then Def Malkavian and I are going to chat about PAX Unplugged a little bit more, get his perspectives on how that insanity went, and then we will talk a little bit about what 2020 is going to bring for Gehenna Gaming and what you can expect, where you can find us, and what you can expect to see from us soon. So stick around. We'll be right back. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Elijah.
And we will be talking soon. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.